Okay, been a little while since I last spoke to y'all. Figured it was time to do a little update. So the last video was 14th of July, 2024, and today is currently July 31st, 2024. So it's a little while. It's about 17 days if I just did that mental math right, which I probably didn't, but that's okay. Which means a lot can change in 2 weeks. So, here's what happened. So I made the video on the 14th of July. And then on the 16th of July was SGA elections. I was elected class president, which is pretty cool. And then physiology exam number 3. We had a midterm quiz, an intro to clinical exam. We had anatomy exam. Okay, we had anatomy lecture exam number 2. We had our lab practical, and then we had our midterm final. So, good bit happened since we last spoke. Been studying a good bit. I've been averaging about 50 hours a week dedicated to the program, which, depending on how you look at it, is either a lot or not a lot. It just kind of depends on the perspective for that. So, physiology exam. There's a siren. I'm going to pause real quick. Okay, should be good to go. So, don't remember specifically what I was saying. Physiology exam. I did pretty good on that. So, there's only 4 exams in that class for us, which means I went ahead and because I've already taken 3, I figured out what I need to make on the final. Midterm, pretty straightforward, no complaints. Intro to Clin, that one was a little bit rough, but neither here nor there. Anatomy exam, pretty much exactly as you'd expect. Lab practicals, I like the hands-on stuff. That's one thing I've learned. If you give me like a drug sheet of 40 different drugs, I really don't like memorizing that. I dislike it. I'm not going to say I hate it. I just really don't like it. But when it comes to the hands-on stuff, where it's like, all right, you got to pick up your laryngoscope and you got to scissor open the jaw, you got to sweep, tip in the vallecula, lift up, get good view, and then put in. That is what I live for. That is my favorite thing. Like, the hands-on stuff is pretty much what keeps me motivated. That's the one thing I look forward to more than anything else, is the hands-on stuff, which is great, because it means I'm actually going to love doing the job. I mean, if I really loved the academics of it, but I absolutely hated doing it, well, that'd be a problem. But thankfully for me, I love doing it. I just don't like having to sit down and go through all the drugs and all that kind of stuff. So no complaints there. So I had fun during that. I enjoyed it. I'm once again going to do my best in these videos to not name names of people unless I specifically talk to them. That includes professors, faculty, staff, students, coworkers, whatever. I'm going to leave them out of it unless I specifically talk to them, or if hell freezes over. I don't know. And then I'm also going to do my best to not give away anything about any classes. So let's just say I'm taking, pediatrics. I haven't taken pediatrics. So whatever I say, know that I have not taken pediatrics. Like, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, so the pediatrics exam asked, what size mask would you use for an 8-year-old? Like, I'm not going to say that. I might throw out hypothetical questions that are just generic and based on the material, but I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, so the airway exam had these things on it. I'm not going to do that. Talk to somebody else for that, because you're not finding it here. Unless I slip up, which is possible, but not likely. Anyway, so a lot happened. So for SGA elections, it was me against another individual for SGA elections. We both stood up and gave speeches. Their speech was longer than my speech. My speech was kind of the short, sweet, to the point. Very thankful that the class has enough faith in me to elect me as their SGA president. It's not lost on me how big of a deal that is, I guess. Um, it's kind of funny because if you look back at my videos, I can see the progression of like just being scared, finding my footing, getting comfortable, getting in the swing of things, and then here I am now. Like, if you talked to me before the white coat ceremony, I would have said there is no chance I would even run for SGA president, let alone win SGA president. So I guess in some ways, maybe that can offer you some confidence that even if you don't feel like you can do it, you very well might be able to. So try not to discount yourself in that sense. So that's not lost on me at all. That's an incredible honor. And I've already been able to work on some things through the SGA / with the SGA. And I can get to that a little bit. I'm not going to give away too much because I'll probably just discover more as I go on. It's probably just not too interesting right now because I don't know the full scope of it, I guess. But that'll come later. Physiology exam. So the way his class is structured is he does it off of 4 exams. So this was exam number 3, which because you know what the percentage is going to be from the last exam, you can figure out what you need to do on the final. So I already know where I stand in physiology. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I don't think this is secret information. For NSU programs, specifically, okay, I can't say for NSU programs. For the NSU Jacksonville CAA program, if you finish the class with, I think it's either 75 or 76, you move on. You're treated like anybody else. GPA does not matter. If you walk out of that class with a 100 on your transcript or you walk out of there with a 76 on your transcript, you are treated the exact same. It does not matter. Now, if you come into an exam and you get a 90, well, you just built yourself up a point buffer that you can miss some on future exams. So keep that in mind. But anyway, that was physiology. Med term. Med term's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. It's kind of hard to get funky with med term. It's basically just asking so the class is taught out of a textbook, as every class is, right? How funky can you get with medical terminology, right? Like, you could make your own custom words and be like, I'm not even going to try to think of one, but like, it's med term. You just got to know it, right? Like, there's some weird stuff in there, but you just got to know it. And, those are easier to me. Intro to Clin, that one had some more drugs on it. I realize I'm getting into stuff a little bit, but if you take the classes, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not saying what's on it. It started to get into the meat and potatoes of it a little bit more. So I felt like earlier in the semester it was just kind of laying the foundation of like, oh yeah, don't touch stuff that's blue in the hospital. And now it's like, all right, here's a scenario. What are you going to do? So that kind of gets a little challenging after a little bit. But I'm happy with how I'm doing in that. I'll leave it at that. Anatomy. Anatomy's anatomy. Do you know what this is, where it is, or not? Come on. Lab practical, I love the hands-on stuff so much. So my favorite thing is going through... So right now, the extent of what we've learned in lab practical is the hands-on stuff. But it's only up to a point. Right? So in anesthesia, you have a chain of progressions, right? Patient comes to hospital, and then you pre-op the patient, do an interview, things like that, and then you bring the patient back. You might have given them an anxiolytic, and then you hook up monitors, hook them up to the actual machine, you give them drugs, and you go through this whole big song and dance. It's this whole big choreographed thing where if you don't... trying to think of how I can word this. If you don't know what to look for, you think it's really simple. So to a lot of people, and I made this mistake, anesthesia looks really easy. In the sense of, oh, you just wheel them on back, you give them a drug, you put the tube in, and there you go. That's all you do. And that's how it looks. That look is deceptive because there's so much that goes into each little step that when you have a really good anesthetist, they can make it look effortless. It's kind of hard to conceptualize it, it's harder to verbalize it. But there's a video by Max Feinstein where he goes through his thought process of an induction. Right? That's our current knowledge, is we know from them entering the hospital up to induction. We haven't gone past induction, really. Even in that time period, which is, less than half of the overall perioperative time period, there's so many small decisions and small things that happen where, once again, if you don't know what to look for, you miss it. And that was something that was lost on me for a little while. But now that I see it, it's really hard to unsee it. So every little step has points to consider. So for instance, you might be wondering, if let's say I'm going in, I'm going to be, I've had my appendix, they're going to take it out. They're going to come to you and they're going to, specifically anesthesia people are going to come to you and they're going to give this whole big list and they're going to walk through it with you. Or they'll hand it to you and, whatever. Each answer you give on that sheet has the potential to impact how anesthesia is delivered to you personally. And it's kind of weird because before I never realized, why does it matter if they have arthritis? Or, so what, their blood pressure is a little high? Or, I didn't think much of it. But now that I see the impact every little thing has, it really starts to make sense. And there's such a nuance to it. It's fascinating. It really is fascinating. And I didn't really grow to appreciate it until I started the program. So that's just really something I've been glad to see. So I guess I could walk it through you a little bit, but I've already said, every answer you give on a pre-op sheet could affect the way anesthesia is delivered to you. And then one of the next bigger things is, how do you induce the patient? So if you're unfamiliar, the process of induction is basically the process of taking an awake person to a not awake person, right? It's the transition. It's the putting them to sleep. The process behind that is so nuanced as well. It's what tube are you going to use? How big of a tube are you going to use? Does it matter which tube you use? How much air do you put in the tube? What flow do you need to be at? How much is the patient going to be getting pre-oxygenated? What drug should you select to induce them with? What drug would you pair your induction agent with to maybe reduce stinging? The patient has heart trouble. How does that change your induction plan? What drug could you give pre-op to help the patient's anxiety? What would be the best paralytic for this patient in these given scenarios? How would you assess that you could bag mask a patient? What would you do if you failed to bag mask? What rescue options do you have? Every single one of those thoughts is just kind of ingrained in me now. I didn't have a list to come up with those. They're just there now. Which I know, it's kind of whoa, man discovers concept called learning. Yeah, I know, but it's in a way it's profound to me. Because I never expected it to just absorb the way that it has. And I really appreciate the song and dance of it more. Because I worked as an anesthesia tech for, we'll call it about 8 months. And in that time frame, I learned so much, but I realized I didn't know shit. I learned a lot, but I didn't know anything. Because they made it look so easy. The CRNAs that I worked for, I was at a smaller outpatient little hospital, okay? It was a branch of a really big hospital. Sorry. And at that hospital, like I said, it was mainly outpatient stuff. So it was a lot of like BMTs and simple surgeries. There was the occasional, more in-depth one, but honestly, the longest case that I would ever see would be about an hour to 2 hours, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that long. They made it look so effortless that it's given me a whole new layer of respect for them. You know that you're watching a good anesthetist when you think a monkey could do this job. Whenever you have that thought of, oh, this is so easy. Look at, that's so easy what they're doing. I mean, all you gotta do is do this, and look at that, it worked perfectly. Whenever you have that thought, know two things. One, a monkey could not do that job. And two, it only looks easy because they are very, very good at their job. And you should respect the hell out of them. It is, right now at least, I mean, a bit, opinions change, whatever. I have such a deep respect for those people who make it look easy. Because I can assure you, it is not. I can assure you that it is not. It's so different to watch than to do. Now here's the thing. If you have the simplest surgery possible, even the level of knowledge to get to that, I couldn't do it right now. That's just a fact. I could not do it right now. And I've been in this program for 2 months, 3 months. I couldn't do the simplest one right now. I couldn't. I could come close. If I had someone looking over my shoulder and it was honest to God the easiest anesthesia case possible, I could come close. But I couldn't do it. Could not do it on my own. So I just have a deep respect for them. And I hope that doesn't fade. Because one day I hope that I can be in their position. And that I can be the one who makes it look easy. That's my goal. That is, if I had a podium that was, I want to achieve this, like my Mount Rushmore of achievements, that's my target. I want to get to the point where if the surgeon, the patient, the circulating nurse, or anybody shadowing me, I want to get to the point that they would look at me, see how effortless it looks, and say, yeah, I could do that. That's what I want. That's my goal. It's going to take a while to get there. It's going to take a while to get there. With inductions, and once again, I really only know up to inductions. With inductions, I can make it look kind of easy, but not really. Like, a high schooler would look at me and say, like, yeah, I could do that. But a middle schooler would say, ain't no way I could do that, because they can see me thinking. I can't make it look easy like they do. And it's going to come with time. That's the one thing that our program director has been harping on from the very beginning. Skills develop over time. You need to put in your reps. You need to take snaps. If you know who I'm talking about, you already know who it is. You need to take snaps, and you'll get there with time. And a lot of the stuff just never made sense to me until I was doing it. So keep that in mind if you feel like you're struggling a little bit. Sometimes you have to do it. And on a side note, that's one of the main reasons I'm very excited about clinicals. I don't get to do clinicals until third semester. I'm in semester 1. So I've got, that coming up. But I'm really looking forward to clinicals. I thrive on hands-on learning. That is my bread and butter. So, anyway, enough yapping. I'm going to pause real quick, and then I'll get back with you, and I'll talk about what I'm doing for finals that are coming up and how I'm studying. Okay, so for finals, there's a lot of exams. There's 9 exams in 12 days for us. That might be different for you. You might have more, you might have less. I don't know. So what my strategy was, figure out what classes are cumulative, what classes are not. And then from there, I would map out and say, all right, Class A. You've already know what classes I'm taking. I'll just say I'm taking Airway, right? Airway, all right. Hypothetically, there's 10 slides. I know the exam is on the, 6th, whatever. How many slides can I study per day and balance that with other classes, right? So then I would just say, okay, I can do 1 slide set a day. So I'd go to the 6th, start on the 5th, and then back up 1 slide set per day. You're like, okay, well, that means I got to start studying on the whatever it is, the 26th or whatever. So that was my approach. The problem is if you end up stacking, I can do 1 slide set a day for each and every of my classes. Well, yeah, you could do a slide set a day individually, but can you do 7 sets per day? They're all going to be for different classes, yeah. So just make sure that that's balanced. That's my plan. Is I walked everything back. I was like, all right, this exam is this day, this day, this day, this day. And then I would just work my way backwards. So I knew when to start studying so that by the time I got to the exam, A, I would have the day off before the exam to review anything that was nagging me. And then B, to make sure that I hit all of the material at least 1 time. So those were my predominant goals there, which I obviously hope works out. At this point, basically all of our grades are in pre-finals, so it's not a mystery what grades I need to see at the end of those exams. I know what I need to pass the class. Pretty much everybody else knows what they need to pass their classes too. So I've done the math and I know where I'm standing. Thankfully, I'm not sweating. I am still nervous because I am always nervous, but I know where I stand and I know what I need to do. My main thing is not stressing myself out, making sure I just take it a day at a time. Because every so often I'll catch myself looking and I'll be like, oh my god, I've got, 30 slides sets to study for physiology. How am I going to do it in this week? Well, you're going to do it a bit at a time. You're going to do it 3 at a time. There's just no other way to look at it. If you look at it from the big picture, you're going to feel awful. At least I do. Right, but when I break it down, it feels more manageable. So today's the 31st, right? I know what I need to study today, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I know what I need to study all the way up that far. I know it to the slide, what I need to study. That way I don't get caught off guard. Planning ahead has been my biggest advantage in this program. And I suggest that when/if/whatever you get in to any grad school program, especially anesthesia, you break it apart, do the component pieces, and chunk it out. Every day I spend about 10 to 15 minutes figuring out what do I need to do today. That way I have a clear mind and I know what needs to get done and how it ranks on the list of priorities. Right? If you need to make a 90 on a final, that final better occupy 90% of your studying. If you only need to make a 40 or a 50 or whatever to pass the class, is it really worth digging your heels in 5 hours a day over that? It depends on who you are. But it is a question worth considering. You have to weight your classes based on how hard they are to you. If someone else says, oh, Airway is the easiest class ever, they might struggle in EKG, and you might think EKG is easy. Study based on your needs. Don't get trapped in the whole thing of, oh, it's meant to be a hard class. I need to study for that really hard class. If it makes sense to you, study accordingly. Don't trap yourself. So just make sure that you're planning ahead. Ooh, you can see a little bit of it there. Make sure that you're planning ahead. Make sure that you know what's going on when, so you don't get caught off guard. So that's kind of my biggest advice. Other than that, can't really think of much else to add. Just been studying a lot. I got more to do today. I go ahead and say what I got to do today. So today, which is Wednesday, July 31st, 2024, I have already studied 2 physiology slide sets, an airway slide set, an EKG slide set. And then I've got left an intro slide set, anatomy practical slide set, anatomy slide set, and then some lab values because the lab written final. So, yeah. Not much else I can really say about that. When will I check in with you? I'll probably get back to you after finals. So it'll be a little over a week, I think. If I get around to it, I might not because I'll be on break and I'll have some time off. But yeah, I'll just have to see. The program has flown by so far. I can honestly say that. It feels like I just started, which is insane to me. Like, if you asked me, honest to God, to sit down, ignoring a calendar, right? How long does it feel like I have been at NSU taking these classes? Bro, it honestly, like 2 or 3 weeks. It's gone so fast. For better or for worse. So, alright, other than that, best of luck in whatever you've got going on in life. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you continue to do well. Other than that, I can't really think of much else to add on, so I will go ahead and end this video here. I mean, I've rambled on for 27 minutes, Lord have mercy, but alright. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.